Well, this is Steve, and I'm here with Dr. John Crawford. I appreciate your time today.
Sure.
You're running, of course, for those that maybe don't know, for City Council at large, a seat that you held once before.
Right.
We wanted to talk a little bit today about your idea about expanding, or maybe not expanding, but doing some bidding on contract services,
Right. Okay.
The professional services.
Right. The reason this kind of came up is because City Council right now is debating an ordinance introduced by Councilwoman Brown that would prohibit any contractor who gave a campaign contribution from bidding on city contracts. And that's probably going to turn out to not be legal because of some overruling by the state law. And there's also possibly some free speech issues based on campaign contributions being the same as speech. And I'm not sure there are the votes on council to pass it. So I just was thinking about what's the real problem here. To me, the real problem is that some bids are competitively bid and some are not. Indiana state law requires you to competitively bid construction projects, if you're going to repave a street, if you're going to buy salt, you have to competitively bid that because there are certain things you have to. But you do not have to bid contracts for professional services. Now, professional services can be many things. It can be engineering, architectural, consultants, and legal. And if you go through the contribution lists of the Mayor Henry, and previous mayors and some city council people, you will see a lot of multi-$1,000 contributions from engineers, architects, consultants, legal, the people who basically contract with the city, but they do it no bid, non-competitive contracts. And there's a reason for that, because the idea is you don't necessarily want the low-cost person to do professional services of, say, legal work if you know someone's actually a little bit better. I'm a physician. I wouldn't want the cheapest neurosurgeon when I was having an operation where I knew somebody who was a little better but charged more. So, but the one thing about competitive bidding, you don't have to take the low-cost bid. You can, if there's a qualitative difference, you can take a higher bid as long as you can demonstrate it. But the problem is, and the theory is, and the appearance is, that a lot of people are giving these large contributions to get an inside track into getting a contract on a service that is not competitively bid. And so I figured, well, if that's the potential appearance, even if there isn't a problem, it looks kind of bad to the public out there. They say, well, gosh, giving all these big contributions, and this is an engineer or an architect who doesn't even live in Indiana. They live in Wisconsin or Michigan or Colorado, and yet their wife is given to the campaign for city mayor here in Fort Wayne. What's that all about? Well, probably they're not interested in the politics of Fort Wayne. They're probably interested in at least keeping an inside track on these contracts. And so, if that's the problem, then the easy way to solve that is make them competitively bid to get that contract. Just because you don't have to by Indiana law doesn't mean you can't if City Council decides and mandates and requires competitive bidding for professional services. It's not prohibited that council can do that, it's just not required. So the Chapter 37, Finance and Revenue of the City Code, can be amended by a majority of City Council, and of course it has to be signed by the mayor. So if they would veto it, you would need 5 votes to pass, and you need 6 to override a mayoral veto. But once that happened, you could require all services for professional services to be competitively bid, or you could select the categories you want. You wouldn't have to do them all. And once again, you don't have to pick the low-cost bidder, but if you make someone bid, it's always been my experience, you're going to get a better price even if you use the same guy. Like, for example, say somebody's had a contract to do a certain type of engineering work in the city for 5 years or 10 years, and you come up to the next contract. Well, you might get a reasonably good price, but you're probably not going to get the low dollar price if the guy knows he's bidding against somebody else. So I just think it removes the appearance of conflict of interest and that they're given contributions to get business. And now you not only get the price of what the contract is, but you kind of know the value now. I was always uncomfortable when I was on city council for 12 years approving those no bid contracts because, yeah, I knew the price, but it's never quite sure, was I getting the best price? Is this the right value? So I think if we did that, we'd have a much more transparent process and we'd have a much better chance of getting the best value for our tax dollars.
How would the $75,000 threshold, how would that play into this?
Change it however you want. Remember, it was $100,000 until just recently we made it 70. City council can do whatever they want.
Sure.
Years ago it was 10,000, and they went to 100. Now they went back to 75, and they could make the limit whatever they wanted. They could make it more or less for these type of contracts. Basically, you just write it the way you want.
Do you think that maybe that would need to be looked at, though, in conjunction with what you're saying, just for oversight purposes?
I'm just saying you should explore this idea.
Sure.
If you know me in the past, by explore I mean like everything, check everything, or look at the way it's written in 10 states. I was looking the other day how they do it in Pennsylvania, and they have 4 pages about how they do it and how you can structure the contracts and how you word it. But I would explore it down to the nth degree and make sure that we're doing it the right way if we do it, because it's tricky. Because for professional services, remember, there's that qualitative thing. Maybe it's not just the low price you're looking for. So before you ask them to bid, you ask for an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. So you're doing some kind of professional service. I'm going to want to see your credentials. I want to see what kind of work you've done before. I want references from people you worked before. And say 10 guys give me RFQs. Well, I might check some of them out and say, you don't have the experience I want, you don't have the training, I haven't got good references. So out of the 10, only you 4 can now submit RFPs, or requests for proposals, actual bids. So now you've kind of said, okay, these 4 guys I think can do a good job. And now I get bids from those 4. And once again, you can still say, okay, this one, we've used them before, and maybe they're a little better than the others, and we think it's okay to pay a little more. You can still do that at council, but now you got, I got some bids here, I can look at them. I got other guys, well, gee, this guy's done more work in another state, and they're giving us a lower price just because we never used them before. Doesn't mean we can't now, because bidding always teaches you things, and I think it would remove any of the appearance that maybe there's some mischief going on. And these no-bid contracts, not necessarily in Fort Wayne, but all through the country and the world, have always been a source of mischief, because big contributors might get more contracts than if they weren't big contributors. And so I just think it's a good way to attack what the ordinance they're talking about at council was after, and actually do it better, because it will go to the true choke point of where this happens. Even if what they were talking about had passed, money always seems to find its way around in politics, and the purchasing department would have had a doubles of a time trying to figure out, let's see, this contractor, the cousin of the wife, gave to a PAC in Singapore, and it might be related. You could never do it. The purchasing department can't do all that. And they can set up PACs, and then it would be this different, but it would get the money around, or they might start giving the money illegally, and just taking it under the table, which has certainly happened other places. But if there's no advantage to giving a contribution, because you're still going to have to competitively bid, you won't see as much of it, because the people that have to competitively bid, the asphalt companies and the street construction, you don't see them giving these big ones. It's the ones that do the no-bid contracts that give the big contributions. So I think it would remove that incentive, and then if someone did want to give a campaign contribution, I could care less, as long as they're the low-cost best provider. If you exclude people that want to be involved in local politics, maybe you're excluding the low-cost best guy. So I don't care if they give a campaign track. I just don't want them to get an inside track and get a contract at a higher price that they wouldn't get any other way. So I think it eliminates all the problems. I know it's legal, and actually I think the majority of the council seemed to be quite favorably disposed to it when I mentioned it the other night.
Good. Anything else going on with you, John?
No, not really. Just getting everything geared up. We're less than 90 days from the election, so I'm laying all the plans for advertising, news conferences. We'll be having one on September the 7th. I'll let you know later about an issue. Getting ready for all of the signs to go up. We'll start on September 1st on those, and getting everything arranged for fundraising and all. So there's lots of little steps. I tend to do everything way ahead, because when we get to that last month or two, I call it the quickening. Everything starts to happen quick. There's all kinds of, could you meet me today? Well, I want you to do a campaign interview. It's like everything starts to compress, and time just flies. So if you get all this kind of stuff done that you know you have to get done, it's always makes it kind of more fun.
Well, John, we appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.